Hello, I'm Rebecca Bone, General Manager of the Student Service Network at Deakin University in Australia, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our presentation on transforming the 4 Ps to improve student and staff experience. Today we will share with you the story of our learnings from the implementation of the Student Service Network, a major workplace change across people, process and platforms to improve our performance. This was a 4-year marathon across rugged terrain that changed courses multiple times. We will share what we learned, how we improved our fitness and built resilience to become elite athletes in our field. I'd like to start by introducing my colleague, Carmen van der Bogaard, who is our guru for all things reporting, data and analytics. Carmen has helped all of us understand the importance of considering the reporting requirements at the very beginning, at that initial design stage. Thinking about our performance, how and what we want to measure, in what way, and how we communicate this out to our various stakeholders. Carmen has been instrumental in using data to identify our pain points and improve our services for staff and students, with a passion to make it better, but more on that later. For now, I'd like to hand over to my co-presenter and self-confessed ServiceNow groupie, Carmen.
Thank you, Rebecca. We are from Deakin University, which is located in the beautiful state of Victoria in the southeast of Australia. We offer a range of undergraduate and postgraduate courses covering the gamut of the arts, education, business and law, science and engineering, health and medicine. We operate 4 physical campuses across the state, as well as online, with our largest campus in student numbers located in Melbourne. At last count, we had over 64,000 students, with a quarter studying online. Well, that's all changed recently. Deakin is very well known to push the boundaries of the digital frontier. In fact, we were the first Australian university to specialise in distance learning, and this was a precursor to our online delivery. Today, there are 43 universities in Australia, of which 37 are public. Deakin is also one of the youngest universities in Australia, and we're incredibly proud because we were recently voted #1 public university for overall education. Deakin has been using the ServiceNow platform for around 8 years, and we started off with the ITSM module, the IT Service Management, which is utilised to manage our IT help desk across our organisation. So over the last few years, other parts of Deakin have been onboarded, such as our diversity and inclusion, our travel, our finance, and even our Vice-Chancellor's office, and they all make use of the online forms. Colleagues in HR and IT and contracts teams all use RITMs as well, which is the requested items module. But in our area, the Student Service Network, which we're representing today, we use a mixture of ServiceNow solutions, but we operate largely within the CSM, the Customer Service Management, and the knowledge space. Our presentation today focuses on the Student Service Network, and with that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Rebecca. But before I do, I'd like to give you a little bit of background. So even though we've been colleagues for over 5 years, it's really been in the last 2 years that we've been working more closely together, and it's all ServiceNow's fault. We share a joint passion for people and customer service and a commitment to making a difference to our students. Under Rebecca's strong leadership, perseverance and determination, we have seen customer service evolve into the Student Service Network as it's known today. Without further ado, I'll hand you over to Rebecca, who'll take you back to how the expedition began. This is the road that led to ServiceNow and the formation of the Student Service Network. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Carmen. So 4 years ago, our customer service area dealt predominantly with general inquiries. These were inquiries related to administrative tasks a student might undertake around their enrolment, paying their fees, or requesting a document. This is opposed to course advice inquiries where a student is making a change to their study plan, their major, or even dropping or adding units. At that stage, these were handled by the faculty or even at a school level. On average, a general inquiry interaction lasts around 4 minutes, whereas a course advice interaction averages around 14 minutes as they are more complex in nature. While we had centralised contact points for these general inquiries and an established call centre, students were directed to other areas or offices around the campus for course advice and specialist services. There were multiple touch points, and for a student undertaking a double degree, this was further complicated by the need to visit different faculty offices to submit the same request. This process often varied between faculty outcomes, and sometimes even the outcome was different. In customer service, we were managing one email box for all general inquiries, 2 phone lines across general and switchboard, and also provided web chat. Our referral process for course advice inquiries consisted of picking from 21 different email addresses and 14 phone lines, depending on which course the student was undertaking and their campus location. Although we serviced a number of channels, there was no connection between these to see what information a student had been provided in response to, say, an email, if that student also phoned us or a different area. Once an inquiry was transferred to a faculty or school, we had no way of knowing if this had been responded to or what the outcome was. This meant we had no true visibility of our service levels or a holistic view of the student and their inquiries. It also resulted in students shopping around for a different answer if they didn't like the response. Staff had low confidence in providing advice, as there was not a centralised knowledge base or consistent process used by the faculties. From this, the Student Service Network was born. The vision included a clearly identified entry point for all student inquiries, a consistent experience regardless of location or channel, and a quick and trusted response. The mechanisms to respond to the student were effective and efficient, and the student kept up to date with the status of their inquiry. At this stage, we focused on a different 4 Ps. Our places were really important, removing the multiple touch points across our campuses to reinforce the single entry point. Our spaces, virtual and physical, needed to be inviting and friendly places to visit. And our people aim was around empowering staff with knowledge and training. Our processes would be streamlined and consistent, and finally, our platforms would support both staff and students. To give some more context to this centralisation, the Division of Student Administration was already a central division, supporting administrative functions across the life cycle of the student, from admission and recognition for prior learning through to enrolment, fees, results and graduations. We wanted the Student Service Network, or SSN, to be exactly that, a network of highly skilled staff that would work together to resolve a student's inquiry, not bound by an organisational structure. Although Student Central, our entry point for student inquiries, would sit within the Division of Student Administration, the SSN would be the cog that works between DSA functional areas and our partners, such as the faculties, support services, and other areas of the university. And so we had a plan to turn this vision into reality. And as with any change of this size, there were a number of components we needed to consider, plan, and implement. Our approach was to make the people change ahead of any process work. Staff were concerned about their roles first and foremost, and had been in an uncertain state for quite some time. The project had also been condensed due to a number of factors and now had a defined end date we needed to meet. Following the major workplace change, there was a move of 45 full-time equivalent staff out of the 4 faculties and into the central team. On 11 December 2017, we implemented a new structure across 5 areas, with staff now in new teams, with new supervisors, and for many, a new location. Given we had put the people change ahead of the process work and we were heading into our peak period, we worked in a hybrid state till the end of March. We needed staff to perform and complete existing tasks to maintain operations. You can imagine this was really challenging for those involved. We then scheduled a 12-week period to complete the process alignment body of work, 165 processes that were potentially being done in 4 different ways, to be followed by the transfer of those 21 mailboxes and 14 phone lines centrally before implementing our new inquiry management system, ServiceNow, ahead of our next peak period. That was our plan. Easy, right? Not so easy. So now we come to the lessons learned through this change process. We had a significant movement of staff within the first 3 months, as would normally be expected following a major change. However, this also meant a loss of expertise. There was a lack of documentation, a reliance on tacit knowledge, and training was predominantly via shadowing. Teams were still adapting to the change, learning new roles and systems, and our capacity to free up staff for training and process design was limited by our peak periods. We hadn't had visibility of the detail of the work that transferred with the staff. And so as we started to unpick the processes, we began to understand the complexity of the task ahead. Not least was the negotiation required to land on an ideal state across 5 areas. One process we looked at was being done in 4 different ways by the faculties. This one process took 3 months of negotiation to reach an agreement on ideal state. We then transitioned the complete volume of work to the central team. They were still learning. We hadn't finished the process work. In fact, we'd barely started. Our systems didn't match our operating model, and then we tried to fit in the inquiry system. Needless to say, our SLAs started to slip. Inquiry levels were higher than expected. Staff absence increased, morale was low, and all eyes of the university were looking at the SSN. At this point, 4 weeks after implementation, we made the brave decision to pull ServiceNow out again and hit the pause button. But we didn't give up. We developed a new plan and a new approach. Firstly, we needed to complete the bulk of our process alignment work to map out ideal state and then overlay how this would work in ServiceNow. We enlisted the support of some key stakeholders as escalation points and thoroughly mapped a 12-month timeline to achieve alignment across all 165 processes. One of the greatest things we did was to embed 4 of our frontline staff in with the project team from eSolutions. They weren't technical experts, but understood our processes, had shown an ability to adapt quickly to the new system and became change champions. They worked 1 day a week back in their respective teams, and this helped with peer-to-peer communications. They were able to see the benefits and champion the system, were a trusted source for their peers, and when it came to training, we were building capability and experts within our own team. We were able to go live firstly with our general inquiries, as we'd already had these processes mapped. These were high in volume and often, but not always, less complex. We engaged a broader section of the university with an end-to-end approach to our processes and developed a phased implementation to bring teams on in groups. Following our general inquiries and after the upgrade, we brought on our first course advice team. Bringing them on team by team, we were able to thoroughly train and provide comprehensive on-the-ground post-go-live support. We were able to iron out any issues and troubleshoot before implementing for the next team. Those downstream were able to see how the system worked, and this continued to build confidence in the system. Our robust training program with ongoing support and proved a successful implementation approach. I'd now like to hand back to Carmen to take you through in more detail how we took this plan to the next level.
Thank you, Rebecca. So one of the key areas of focus with this new plan was our knowledge resources. I'm sure this is a very familiar image in many businesses, and ours was absolutely no different. There were multiple sources across multiple applications and platforms. There was no consistent source, and as you can imagine, in the customer service space, made it very, very difficult for new staff to equip themselves with the tools and information they needed to do their job. So as part of the new plan, we came up with a way to structure our knowledge resources. And this is what it looked like. We came up with this knowledge management ecosystem where our main focus was to encourage and provide staff as well as students a mechanism for self-service. Underpinning this ecosystem is the SharePoint site and the ServiceNow Knowledge module. The SharePoint site links to various resources which enable our staff to provide students with advice and guidance. And the Knowledge module is where we make articles and templates available to our staff. Some of the templates are what's called response templates. These are predefined and reusable messages that our staff can use to provide quick and consistent messaging to students. We also make use of case templates, which provide a mechanism to automatically populate fields on our inquiry forms and for specific types of inquiries. Along with the usual websites, documents, and a learning management system, we also utilize SnapComms. It's a utility for those times we need to get important information out to our staff. Very useful in the times that we're living in when we're all working from home. So all our inquiries flow into ServiceNow where a case record is created. Where we talk about a case or an inquiry, these are interchangeable terms for this presentation. So our staff launch ServiceNow from our phone and campus hub queue management systems, and inquiries via email and online forms automatically create a case record. So within this case record, staff can access knowledge articles and different types of templates. We apply a categorization to give us an indication of the nature of inquiries, and these categorizations, along with keywords, will prompt listings of potentially relevant articles and templates that staff can access, kind of like a Google search. We also use the reporting and dashboard functionality within ServiceNow, but I'll tell you more about that next. So for those familiar with ServiceNow, inquiries are generated in list view, which for want of a better description is the equivalent of a large Excel spreadsheet. So this is where dashboards play a really important role. If you can imagine being faced with thousands of inquiries each day, the dashboards allow our staff to prioritize what's relevant to them at that point in time. So the dashboards consist of tiles that allow us to visualize information that is easily and quickly understood by our staff. It gives them an indication of what their workload looks like on that day. So in this particular dashboard, the data displayed is personalized to staff roles and their access levels. So for example, the open inquiries tile is the number of inquiries that are still active and assigned to that staff member currently viewing this dashboard. There are alerts for urgent inquiries or when students have updated their case with additional information, while other visualizations are specific to certain topics. I'd like to draw your attention to the top categories tile. This helps prioritize workload related to certain events. So as an example, when our exam period is approaching or when we're in the midst of it and there are exam-related inquiries, our staff can prioritize those inquiries. So on selecting a number in a chart, the inquiries relevant to that tile are presented back in list view, and our staff can focus just on those. So this feature is particularly helpful, especially during peak periods when we can easily be managing 6,000 inquiries a day. Now, this is the part that really excites me. Taking the data that our staff have been collecting and turning it into insights, into something more meaningful. Getting to know our customers, their wants and their needs, and actually influencing change. This is what has changed the way we go about our business. We took something simple as examining daily trends in a particular topic to making recommendations for change, which then contributed to a decrease in volumes. So in this example, we have a timetabling system which opens 3 times a year, coinciding with the start of each academic session. We noticed that students were making inquiries pretty much a week before the system even opened. And on closer examination, we found that students and their parents were calling up to ask about this system. What is it? How do I use it? How do I decide what classes to attend? Don't I have to come to campus every day anyway? Why are you making me choose? We realized there was a lot of work to be done on our communications. So we worked with our comms team who did a fantastic job of making the notifications a lot clearer. And for the next session, we saw a 34% decrease in volumes over an equivalent period. And these insights are really what make the effort, and I'll tell you what, the pain of implementation all the more worthwhile. We are now able to build course profiles, something we've never been able to do in the past, as we didn't know who our customers were. We knew they were students, we just didn't know where they were from, what they were studying, which faculty they were from. So the course profiles provide an indication of whether students on different courses experience different pain points. So in this example, we see that approximately 2/3 of our students on this course made an inquiry related to enrolment. They struggled with unit selection, so not knowing what subject to enroll in, and that academic integrity unit, it actually attracted more than 1/3 of the volumes. So this mandatory unit was only recently introduced, and because it's not credit bearing, so it doesn't lead to a credit for their degree, students were uncertain as to whether even to enroll in it. So this is the type of information we can now share with our colleagues so they can prepare when they're structuring courses. So we all are starting to have a better understanding of what causes a student to ask for help. Courses that are too prescriptive, courses that are too flexible, those are the ones that attract the highest number of inquiries. And for us in student administration, this data is also shining a light on many of our processes and putting us now on the front foot when it comes to making improvements. I'll now hand you back to Rebecca, who'll take us down the home straight. Over to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Carmen. And so this is how the now compares. Our student population has increased over the last 4 years, although we've definitely seen some fluctuations over the last couple of months. Our inquiry volumes have increased, but so has the complexity of the processes that we now own, including a number of back-of-house tasks. We've defined our entry points across the campuses, reducing the broader number of touch points, and have a dedicated cloud campus student central hub. As you can see, our team has grown, but they're also cross-trained in multiple areas, reducing our previous siloed approach. It's hard to believe that it was only late last year that we completed our implementation of ServiceNow for the SSN and closed off the project. The results are already being seen, and staff continue to feed back ideas on improving the way we do things and the experience for our students. Over 1,000 knowledge articles, both student and staff facing, are enabling self-service through our online inquiry form. Throughout the SSN implementation and significant change, the team maintained high levels of excellent customer service. In 2018, Deakin was rated first in Victoria for student satisfaction for the 8th consecutive year, based on the Australian Graduate Survey from 2010 to 15 and the Quilt Student Experience Survey from 2016 to 18. And one of the most important outcomes for me was around people. We surveyed our SSN staff every 6 months throughout the process, across the areas of enablement, energy and engagement. Some of the results were certainly not pretty along the way, but we listened to our staff, made adjustments, and in April 2019, overall staff satisfaction increased by 33% on the previous year. Our performance has improved with a continued reduction in volumes, particularly in the general space, as students self-serve and we don't see the duplication we previously experienced. We can dedicate our time and our energy to supporting our students in a more tailored way. The workflows mean inquiries go to the correct team in the first instance. All of this has resulted in a 9% reduction in full-time equivalent staff achieved through natural attrition, and in 2019, a 42% reduction in the use of casual staff, which alone was a saving of over $400,000. And finally, our ability to be nimble. The initial way we, Deakin, were impacted by COVID-19 was the cancellation of our trimester 3 exams in China in January. We had 5 venues and around 65 students due to sit their exams locally in China, but as the venues closed, we had no choice but to cancel these. This was closely followed by around 1,400 students impacted by the travel restrictions put in place. Many had returned home for Chinese New Year and signalled that they would be unlikely to make it to Australia in time to commence trimester 1 or would arrive late and need to isolate. There was early discussion around setting up a special email address or phone number for students and separate processes to manage their inquiries, but we said no. This is what we do, send them to the SSN as always. We were, however, able to mobilise a dedicated small team within the SSN to case manage the impacted students. We looked at what processes could be further centralised or streamlined and handed solely to our dedicated team. We were able to identify the impacted students, flagging them in our student management system, which flowed through to ServiceNow. Anytime an impacted student contacted us, they were prioritised and their inquiry sent straight to our escalation management team for a quick response. Students didn't have to do anything different, but what we put in place behind the scenes using ServiceNow made it work for us. As the pandemic has expanded, what we learnt in those early days has allowed us to replicate the streamlined processes for our entire international student population. The evidence collected meant we were able to make quick but educated decisions. We now have a circumstance where all of our students have moved to online learning with minimal disruption. For our top takeaways, I'd like to bring it back to our 4 Ps, our people. The more we engage staff at every step of the process, beginning with design, the better the outcome we achieved. They were our early adopters, our champions, and ultimately our best supporters. Our processes. We are gathering such rich data now that is informing us on the best way to deliver our services to our students and supporting our staff to deliver those services. We continue to review and refine, giving us the ability to be agile and responsive. Our platforms. We're such fans, groupies if you like, and there is a continual evolution in the way that we're using ServiceNow and the future possibilities. Our next exciting step is implementing the performance analytics module. And finally, our performance. our staff satisfaction, our student satisfaction, and a culture that rewards new ideas to reach optimisation. Innovation is being driven from the bottom up, supported by the rich data, responded to by an empowered and capable team, which will achieve great outcomes for our staff and our students. Thank you from both myself and Carmen. It's been a pleasure to share our insights in the marathon we undertook. We may have come to the end of this race, but we're already in training for our next challenge. Thank you, and please get in touch if you'd like to hear more. Over to you, Carmen.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching us today, and please contact us if you've got any questions. Thank you.